Listen to Kovai Vani. Enjoy the podcast by our enthusiastic young residents. Kovai Care is the best place to retire.
Today, we are going to talk about a common but often ignored aspect of growing old. Most of us have been lonely at times in our lives, but as we grow old, loneliness may affect our well-being and have serious consequences on our health and lifestyle. In this podcast, we bring you two segments. The first one by two eminent experts on senior care, Colonel Sridharan and Dr. Rahul Padmanabhan. In the second segment, Krishnan brings you some insights and tips on coping with loneliness. Segment 1.
Longevity is increasing and so is the need for palliative care. The elderly population has increased considerably thanks to the advancement of health care, but several are faced with physical, psychological and emotional challenges. Loneliness is the biggest issue that most of the elderly commonly face, and that is what we're going to discuss today. Most often, one of them lose their spouse at an elderly age and are plunged into loneliness, whereby they are unable to initiate new friends and are also not able to maintain their old connections. Now that we see a lot of senior citizens home mushrooming, is it because there is a vacuum? Is it because more and more children leave their parents to fend for themselves? Let's ask Colonel Sridharan, Managing Director at Kovai Property Centre India Private Limited, and Dr. Rahul Padmanabhan, Medical Director, Dr. Rahul's Elder Care, Coimbatore. So thank you so much for talking to Kovai first, Colonel. So there was this recent incident where in Thrissur, where a couple aged over 75 got married because they were feeling lonely. So you have been, a pioneer in retirement homes, and you have about 18 homes across Coimbatore, Chennai, Pondicherry, and Bangalore. Yeah. So what have you seen, going by your experience? Why do you think companionship is important?
It is very important because man, right from the beginning, when you're born, you have company. You had your mother, your father, your brother, sister, then it changes into your spouse. I think once the husband and wife, one of them dies, which normally is the case, unless I saw a photograph yesterday, after 62 years of marriage, a couple died holding their hands together.
Yeah. There are a lot of such incidences.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the loneliness is the one which makes terrible things to especially men. I find single women are very happy, for whatever be the reason. I'll leave the reasons to your imagination. But definitely single men get lonely. Suppose women are very strong, men are not, emotionally stronger, and they can adjust.
Yeah.
Whereas men cannot adjust, they have an ego issue. And I find them to be getting depressed and lonely. And the loneliness is only because of lack of company. Right. And I suppose at that age, they're not looking at physical intimacy, but definitely they're looking at someone to talk to, someone to, just be around, and just expressing each other's viewpoint and living together. I suppose that is more important than anything else. Okay. So companionship is essential, I think, as we as humans, as much as when we are young, especially when we are old.
Okay. So doctor, you tell me, is companionship the only reason why the aged feel lonely, and how is it associated to depression? Most of them suffer depression.
Right. See, what happens when we get old is our coping mechanisms to stress, emotional turmoil. It gets affected by a lot of other factors, what we call external environment factors. By default, the ability to cope depends upon your communication with the outside world. And as we age, what we find is they are not able to hear well, they are not able to see well. Right. They are not able to make sensible judgments. The judgment gets impaired. So loneliness gets prolonged, and when death of the spouse happens, it's very natural that you go through what we call bereavement process. You undergo grief, and as age advances, we find that the grief period prolongs, and it eventually turns into depression. Companionship is one way of coping with this issue of loneliness and depression. And it is not that a death of the spouse has to happen or somebody very near has to die for us to seek for a companionship. Companionship can happen when you are under stress. For example, as a caregiver for a sick husband, the wife doesn't know what to do. She can seek companionship in other ladies or the men who are taking care of a sick elderly.
Right. It need not be the opposite sex.
It needn't be.
Yeah.
So it is one way of channeling your thoughts, getting positive thoughts when you talk to a person who is under similar situation. This particular incident in Thrissur which happened, the lady was actually taking care of this person, was providing nursing care, was giving medications, and then they developed a rapport, and it finally ended up in being like good friends, and then they decided to get married. Now it's not that all companionship, the course ends with a marriage. It needn't be so. They can be just friends, somebody who they can talk to, they can understand. So definitely yes, companionship is one way of tiding over the crisis of loneliness.
So Colonel, having spoken about companionship, is there a stigma attached to it? Because we are in a society where, we think n number of times if we are to go for a second marriage. So leave marriage aside, be it marriage or live-in, any kind of companionship. Is there a stigma that you notice even in these homes?
Definitely. I think there is a stigma when it comes to the question of even companionship without marriage.
Right.
There is always that stigma is attached. And the stigma comes from your own kith and kin, your children. First it starts from there.
Absolutely.
And then it will start from your neighbors, your friends, and everybody will say, what is the necessity? Why you are doing this? You are breaking the tradition.
Absolutely.
And why do you have to do this? To my way of thinking, you can say it doesn't mean that the husband and wife who has passed off, left this world, they don't have love for each other at all, even after demise. But I personally feel that a person who wants someone to talk to and wants to be there around, yes, I think it's very essential, need not get married, they can live in company. The second thing, of course, is like the way doctor said, you can find other means for companionship. I know many people like to have a dog as a pet, as a companion. I know a lady who has got 2 Siamese cats and she finds companionship with them. And she's only 78 years young. So to that, you can choose whatever you want. Ultimately, you need to cling to something and say, yes, I have company. I think if you put somebody alone in a house, it's quite tough to live there, especially if you're not in a retirement community where you want other people also to talk to. If you're in an apartment or something like that, you miss this. Communication is very, very essential.
Right.
Whatever the doctor said is very essential.
So doctor, so depression, among the senior citizens and the kind of emotional turmoil that they face, does it decrease their longevity?
Yes, not the longevity as such, but the outcome of the disease they already have.
Right.
Various research have shown that social isolation or loneliness is an independent risk factor for outcome of disease like a diabetic hypertension or a cardiac disease. It also shown that depression paves the way for dementia. So people who are depressed, they have more chance of getting cognitive impairment or memory problems. So definitely the quality of life as well as the outcome of disease gets affected by loneliness.
Colonel, so we see a lot of these, senior citizens homes or the retirement homes, as you call it, mushrooming. Is it because increasingly the children let their parents stand for themselves? Is it because of that?
I would say the children have left the parents. We parents send the children away. In all our cases. We all want our children to excel, study, work hard, go to IIT, IIM, and do this, do that, and they go. And I suppose, how long can you say that come and take care of me? I think today the joint family is gone. We've got nuclear families. Everybody to.
Was it better then?
Joint family had its own advantage, a lot of advantage. I would definitely say, I come from a joint family. Of course, that also broke in my father's time. But it had a lot of advantages. Like the age difference between my sister and me is just about 1 year and 1 month. I was brought up and my aunt was not married. At that point of time. So it's a lot of plus points you have in a joint. There's no question of getting depression. I have not seen anything called stress, depression in a joint family.
Absolutely.
But you
That's
see
why
it
I'm
in a
asking
nuclear
that
family.
question.
Definitely.
So
joint family any day is better.
Children feel that if they are closely knit, if they are together, do you see that less? Would you?
I don't think so, because there are two things I can say. Today the closeness has been gapped with the technology. You have these smartphones. I can talk to my grandchildren.
But it's not like being together.
It is not. And I also, I come to a conclusion that it is not possible.
Okay.
Because, they are living in their own world, their own husbands, they got their own kids, their own job, and wherever they are. But they'll come to me. It's not that they have thrown us in a ditch, but definitely they are there. Yet, what happens if my wife dies? Will I still remain the same way with my children, or will I miss my children more? And these are the questions that I have to ask. And where do I find this companionship? In the retirement community, there are so many people to talk to.
Right.
So many people, activities are taking place. So the companionship comes from there also. But I don't think I'll continue to stay in my apartment in case, God forbid, my wife leaves me. Because then I don't want to get depressed, because all single men, I find them depressed.
So doctor, you tell me, what has been your observation? Do you see more number of people depressed when they are with their family as a nuclear family, or do you see that when they are alone? And also add on to it the rural and urban categorization. How do you see urban people coping up more than the rural ones?
Alright, so I'll answer the second question first about the urban-rural divide. What we see in villages is more social support, and it needn't be from the family, it can be from the neighborhood. So a close-knit society like a village, we find that elders cope well with emotional turmoil. So whether it's a death of the family member or a physical injury or a health issue, we find that they receive more support. Whereas when you come to urban area where people are staying in their home, the husband and wife or with their children, we find that the coping takes more time because of the lack of emotional support they get. So definitely there is a difference between the way an elder cope in his village and when he's moved into a city. We also find that when an elder moved to a senior retirement community, we find that they have a chance to make new friends. Most often, the people who move into a retirement community are what we call young old, in the age group of 50 to 60, where their communication is much better, they are ambulant, they can walk around, they can meet friends. But when a very senior person, an an 85-year-old person moves into a community, already having a lot of issues in communicating, we find that they don't get the advantage of moving into a retirement community. So the concept now is encouraging more heterogeneous community where there are people of all age groups, just like Colonel Sridhar's.
Yes.
Because I've seen old age homes not wanting, they want only old people, they don't want the young.
It used to be like that when we started off in 2004. We thought standalone retirement communities is what people prefer. But there's something called longevity which has come. We are all living long. Last year, our average age of people who died was 83. And I find that this is going up every year. And consequently, we also feel that it is better that you mixed up the younger. When I say younger, it means not somebody who just passed out of the college, then there will be utter chaos there.
Maybe 40 plus.
45, because we did some research, and 45 is the generation where the joint family absolutely started breaking down.
So which means you have the parents and you have the
Children,
son or the daughter also along with
and
it.
they
That
both
makes
become
sense.
support systems.
Absolutely.
See, the working woman, that lady, she gets support system from our facilities like catering and housekeeping and
Right,
etc.
right, absolutely.
The child goes to school, comes back, and you have somebody to take him, to make him compulsorily play games. Otherwise today kids don't play.
Right.
We are the world's second largest obese country.
Right,
And you can make them play, and my seniors can run classes for them, tuition centers. Why should you run around outside? They all are so highly educated. So why can't they run tuition classes in case I give the facility of 5 separate nice rooms? So then the ecosystem of the joint family comes back again, and I think that is what we are trying to do. All our projects we are going to be doing now is part of a township, and it is going to be ageless retirement communities.
Wonderful.
If Kamala does not come, Vimala will come.
My final question, Doctor, to you is about this Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007, amended recently. Why is this not being implemented, or why are they not able to successfully implement this act? I mean, do you think that would reduce the kind of issues that the senior citizens face at that age?
It would definitely reduce the incidence of abuse,
Right.
whether it's financial abuse or physical abuse or emotional abuse. Loneliness is just one part of the entire spectrum. Why people are not utilizing this bill is people are not aware of this bill.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah, whether it's doctors who take care of elders, or people who are in charge of taking care of elders, or the elders themselves, they are not aware of such a law. So the law is there, the way it is implemented is not proper. Now it is not just the awareness that is important, there has to be an entire machinery, a part of which the government also has to play a part, where they have to provide decent place for elders to stay.
Yeah.
If you look at the state of the old age homes,
Right. It's very pathetic.
it is not very decent. Now there's a part the government has to play, the part NGOs has to play, and the part the society and the community has to play. And any act will get enacted properly when all these people work together. So basically the challenge is to create more awareness, and then all of these parties coming together and working properly.
Okay. So thank you so much for talking to Co-Ed Post.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you very much.
Segment 2. Hello everyone. Let me begin by saying that being a senior citizen is not easy, as aging is not only about physical changes to your body, but also about the mental changes that are involved as you age. I am here to talk to you about one common but important aspect of growing old. Before I begin, I would like to state that this is not intended to be medical advice or diagnosis and treatment, but a concerned senior citizen speaking to his peers. Let's talk about living with loneliness. Being lonely and being alone are two entirely different things. To be alone means that there is no one present besides you. But loneliness can mean that you may be with several people. You may be in a crowd. You may be with friends, with members of your family, and still feel all alone. Loneliness can be very destructive and depressive, and a feeling that can lead to some terrible things. But it's not all bad. We just need to be aware that these are nature's way of telling us to take guard for this phase of our life. This episode will try to take you through why we feel lonely and what we can do about it and prevent it from stopping us from leading our senior lives in a better way. Why do we feel lonely? As long as we are working or managing homes and children, we are in an active social environment. We have colleagues, friends, children's schools, parents' associations, business relationships, movies, parties, etc. to keep us actively engaged both physically and emotionally. When we retire, our social circle becomes smaller. Though we have more time on our hands and can spend more time on hobbies and have easier lifestyles, slowly we find that meaningful interaction with friends, colleagues, and even family become less and more infrequent. Friends, relatives, and family members either move to different places or pass away. The concept of joint families that created strong bonds within families has given way to nuclear families, as everyone nowadays wants their own space and what they consider freedom from family burdens and worries. Of course, children are more than willing to take care of their parents, but their careers and their own commitments have to be dealt with. Distances act as a barrier to being physically and emotionally close. As we grow older, we become less mobile due to physical changes in our body, and our ability to travel and meet our friends and family is also hampered. Weaker eyes, loss of hearing, and aching fingers make socializing seem more strained and less fun. Loss of a spouse is also one of the major causes of trauma, leading to an irreversible feeling of sorrow. Time is a big healer, but coping with this loss is pretty tough. One of my friends recalls that as she became older, festivals became less festive and sweets were less often distributed. Greeting cards and gifts became less frequent, and she was receiving more messages of illnesses and deaths. A good number of senior citizens have illnesses that prevent them from leaving their homes, or due to logistics issues, embarrassment, or insecurity. Some of us suffer from incontinence and may need assistance like dialysis, oxygen concentrators, or nebulizers, making life even more difficult. The amount of time we get to spend with our family and friends becomes less, and the quality of interactions also suffers. How do we fight loneliness? It's tough, as it involves doing different things with your body and mind, and also doing things differently. Let's take a few things that can actually help you get out of your cocoon. Try meeting more people with similar interests. Reading, music, art and craft, board games like chess, Scrabble or Carom may help. They are not only interesting but also involve the use of body as well as mind. It also takes strong support of family members, friends and other loved ones to help us in these times. Get your near and dear to spend more time with you. Try to find company with younger people. They may be school or college students in your area, social and health workers, or even your household help. You will be amazed at how this activates your mind, and over a period of time, some enriching friendships may even develop. Take action to help yourself. These days, communication is almost instant. When you need to talk to your family and friends, a smartphone and many apps like FaceTime, WhatsApp, Gmail and the like are at our fingertips. We should get our friends to help with technology to bring us closer to each other. What can the rest of us do? Senior or not, we can always help. It's not all that tough to help the lonely. All we need to do is to help assure them that help and support is always available. Listen to them, make them feel connected and wanted. Check out some of the old activities that they liked and reignite their desire to try them again. If they cannot, help them find new, easier hobbies. We can help them minimize their isolation by finding hidden or forgotten talent. Mahadevan was a good tabla player till he grew old and forgot his art. We discovered this at a music concert where his fingers were dancing to the beat. We could see subtle changes in his eyes and the nodding of his head. He had discovered his passion. Over time, he became sociable enough to take part in a small music group and find his lost body and soul. There are other ways too. Seniors can join volunteering programs to mentor school and college-going girls and boys. You can read a book to a grandchild, sit with the visually impaired and help them to read. I have heard youngsters say, I feel like I am learning something new every day. This kind of mutual handholding does wonders for both us and the juniors who are with us. And she says, I learn something new every day when I am with seniors because I am being taught by the best, she admits. If any member of your family or your friends lives alone, talk to them and visit them often. It takes a bit of effort. But if we can help them lessen the damaging effects of loneliness, we can be a part of healthy living and better quality of life for seniors. Just like a baby takes his first step and sees a new world, it just takes the first step for us to help seniors find a better world. We owe it to ourselves. Thank you for your patience.
எல்லோருக்கும் இனிய வணக்கங்கள். இன்று முதியோர்கள் தனிமையிலும் தனியாக இருப்பதும் பற்றி பேச விரும்புகிறேன். முதியோர்களாக இருப்பது எளிதல்ல. முதுமை என்பது உடல் ரீதியான மாற்றங்கள் மட்டுமல்ல, பலவிதமான மனமாற்றங்களும் ஏற்படுகிறது. இவைகளை பற்றி ஆராய்வதற்கு முன்னால் நான் என்ன சொல்ல விரும்புகிறேன் என்றால், இது மருத்துவ ஆலோசனையோ அல்ல சிகிச்சையாகவோ கருதாமல் ஒரு முதியவர் தன்னை போன்ற முதியோர்களிடம் சில கருத்துக்களை பகிர்வதாக நோக்க வேண்டும். தனிமையில் இருப்பதும் தனிமையாக இருப்பதும் இரண்டும் வேறுபட்டவை. ஒருவருடன் வேறு ஒருவருமே இல்லாமல் இருந்தால் அவர் தனியாக இருக்கிறார். ஆனால் கூட்டங்களிலும் நண்பர்களுடனும் குடும்பத்தினரிடம் இருந்தபொழுதும் கூட தான் தனியாக இருப்பதாக உணர்வது தனிமையாக இருப்பதாகும். தனிமையாக இருப்பது மன அழுத்தம், சோர்வு மற்றும் குழப்பங்களை உருவாக்கலாம். இவை இயற்கையானதாக இருந்தாலும் இந்த கட்டத்தை நாம் எப்படி தாண்டி மகிழ்வுடன் இருக்க முடியும் என்பதை அறிதல் அவசியமாகிறது. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியின் மூலமாக தனிமையின் காரணங்களையும் அதை எப்படி எதிர்நோக்க வேண்டும் என்பதையும் குறித்து பார்க்கலாம். நாம் ஏன் தனிமையாக இருப்பதாக உணர்கிறோம்? நம்முடைய இளவயதிலும் நடுவயதிலும் நம்முடைய கவனம் நாம் செய்யும் வேலையிலும் குடும்ப பொறுப்புகளிலும் இருந்தது. நம்முடைய சூழ்நிலை மிகவும் சுறுசுறுப்பாக இருந்ததால் வேறு எண்ணங்கள் தோன்றுவதற்கு நேரமோகோ இருந்ததில்லை. குழந்தைகளின் பராமரிப்பு, திரைப்படம் மற்றும் பல கேளிக்கைகளில் நம் மனம் ஈடுபட்டிருந்தது. ஆனால் ஓய்வு பெற்றவுடன் நம் சமூக வட்டம் சிறிதாகிவிடுறது. பொறுப்புகள் எல்லாம் ஒரு விதமாக நிறைவேற்றியிருப்போம். அதே 24 மணி நேரமும் இருந்தாலும் இப்பொழுது நம்மிடம் நேரம் நிறைய இருக்கும் என்று தோன்கிறது. ஆனால் அதை செயல்படுத்த வழிகள் குறைந்துவிடும். நம் சக ஊழியர்கள், நண்பர்கள், ஏன் குடும்பத்தினரிடம் கூட தரமான நேரமோ அர்த்தமுள்ள தொடர்புகளுக்கோ அரிதாகிவிடும். வயதிற்கேற்ற உடல் மாற்றங்கள் காரணமாக நம்முடைய இயக்கங்கள் தடைப்படுகிறது. ஒவ்வொன்றாக நம் உறுப்புகள் பலவீனம் அடைய தொடங்குகின்றன. பார்வை, செவித்திறன், மூட்டுவலி போன்ற பாதிப்புகள் தோன்றும். சிலரின் வாழ்க்கை துணையின் இழப்பும் மன அதிர்ச்சியும் வேதனையும் உள்ளாக்குகிறது. காலம் சிறந்த விதமாக குணப்படுத்தும் என்று கூறினாலும் இழப்பை சமாளிப்பது இரண்டும் மிகவும் கடினமானது. முதுமையில் பண்டிகை கொண்டாட்டங்களோ இனிப்பு விநியோகமோ அல்லது வாழ்த்து அட்டைகள் மற்றும் பரிசு பரிமாற்றங்களோ மிகவுமே குறைந்துவிடும். நம் வயதொற்றோர்களுடன் நோய்வாய்ப்பட்டிருப்பார்கள் அல்லது மரணம் அடைந்த செய்திகளே நம்மிடம் அதிகமாக வந்து சேர்கிறது. முதியோர்கள் சில பல நோய்களால் வீட்டிலேயே முடங்க வேண்டிய சூழ்நிலை ஏற்படுகிறது. சிறுநீர் அடங்காமை போன்ற கோளாறுகள் அவர்களை மனதளவிலும் உடல் அளவிலும் பாதிக்கின்றன. பலர் டயாலிசிஸ், பிராணவாயு செறிவூட்டிகள், நெபுலைசர்ஸ் போன்ற உதவி நாட தேடுகிறது. இது மேலும் வாழ்க்கையை கடினமாக்கிறது. தனிமையை எதிர்ப்பது எப்படி? தனிமை என்ற கூட்டிலிருந்து வெளிவரும் வழிகளை நாம் ஆராய வேண்டும். ஒத்த எண்ணங்களும் உணர்வுகளும் கூடியவர்களுடன் பழக வேண்டும். இசையில் நாட்டமுடையவர்களுக்கு இது ஒரு வரப்பிரசாதமாக இருக்கும். வாய்ப்பாட்டோ இசைக்கருவிகள் வாசிப்பதில் நேரத்தை செலவிடலாம். மற்றும் ஓவியம், கைவினைப் பொருட்கள் செய்வது, கதை, கவிதை எழுதுவது, சதுரங்கம், ஸ்கிராபிள் போன்றவைகளை பொழுதுபோக்காக செய்யலாம். இவை சுவாரஸ்யமாக இருப்பது மட்டுமல்ல, மனதையும் உடலையும் ஊக்குவிக்கும். மேலும் இளைஞர்களுடன் நட்பு வைத்து கொள்ளலாம். இவர்கள் யாராக வேண்டுமானாலும் இருக்கலாம். மாணவர்களோ, சமூகம் மற்றும் சுகாதார பணிவாளர்களோ, வீட்டில் உதவுபவர்களாகவும் இருக்கலாம். அவர்களுடன் பழகும்போது ஏற்படும் மனமாற்றங்கள் ஆச்சரியப்படும்படியாக இருக்கும். காலத்திற்கு ஏற்றபடி தொலைபேசியில் ஃபேஸ்புக், வாட்ஸ்ஆப், ஜிமெயில், இன்ஸ்டாகிராம் போன்ற பல்வேறு பயன்பாடுகள் மூலம் நாம் எல்லோருடன் தொடர்பில் இருக்கலாம். மற்றவர்கள் முதியோரை உதவும் வழிகள் பலவும் உண்டு. தனிமையில் இருப்பவர்களிடம் சில நேரம் பேசி அவர்களுக்கு உதவியும் ஆதரவும் எப்பொழுதும் கிடைக்கும் என்ற நம்பிக்கையை நாம் கொடுக்கலாம். முக்கியமாக முதியவர்களுக்கு பேச்சு துணைக்கு அவசியம் ஏற்படுகிறது. அவர்கள் சொல்வதை கேட்பதற்கு மனிதர்கள் இருப்பதே அவர்களுக்கு ஒரு பெரிய தெம்பு கொடுக்கும். அவர்களுடைய கடந்த கால வாழ்க்கையில் ஈடுபட்டிருந்த செயல்களை பற்றி கேட்டறிந்து அதன் மூலம் மற்றவரும் பயனடையலாம். மகாதேவன் என்ற மிருதங்கவாத் வித்வான் வயதான காலத்தில் கூட இசை கச்சேரி கேட்டுக்கொண்டிருந்த பொழுது தன்னையும் மறந்து தாளம் போட ஆரம்பித்தார். பாட்டிற்கு ஏற்ப தலையையும் அசைத்து கொண்டு இசை மழையில் நனைந்து கொண்டிருந்தார். தன்னுடைய உடல் ஒத்துக்கொள்ளாது என்ற தீர்மானத்திற்கே வந்தவர் தன்னையும் மீறி மறுபடியும் மிருதங்கம் வாசிக்க துடித்தார். ஒரு சிறிய இசைக்குழுவில் அவரை சேர்த்து கொண்டனர். அவரும் மிகவும் மகிழ்ச்சியாக தன்னுடைய கலையை பழகலானார். பள்ளி மற்றும் கல்லூரி மாணவர்களுக்கு முதியோர் வழிகாட்டியாக இருக்கலாம். தன்னுடைய பேரக்குழந்தைகள் கூட அவர்கள் கதை பேசி நேரத்தை செலவழிக்கலாம். இளைஞர்கள் ஏதாவது புதிதாக ஆன்றோரிடம் கற்றுக்கொள்ளலாம். பரஸ்பரம் இருவரும் கைப்பிடிப்பு காரணமாக இருவருக்கும் பலன் ஏற்படுத்துவது அதிசயம் போல நடக்கும். தனியாக வாழும் முதியோர்களிடம் சற்று நேரம் பேசிக்கொண்டிருந்தால் அவர்களை உற்சாகப்படுத்த முடியும். தனிமையின் தீங்கை குறைக்கிறதுக்கு உதவும். ஒரு சிறிய குழந்தை தன்னுடைய முதல் படியை எடுத்து வைக்கும் பொழுது ஆச்சரியத்துடன் உலகை பார்ப்பது போல முதியவர்களும் சின்ன சின்ன ஆசைகள் நிறைவேறும் போது மிகவும் ஆனந்தம் அடைகிறார்கள். முதியோர் வாழ்க்கை ஆரோக்கியமாக இருப்பதற்கு மற்றவர்கள் கைதூக்கிவிட்டால் அவர்கள் வாழ்க்கை தரமும் மிகவும் உயரும். பொறுமை காத்தமைக்கு நன்றி. வணக்கம்.
Thank you and stay tuned.